Hey everybody, Rich down here in the bunker with Prep U. Hey, in this video, it is a good question, really. Are your preps ready for an EMP, nuclear war, coronal mass ejection, or just a failure of the electrical grid? We just heard today that President Biden wants to push heavier standards on natural gas and coal-fired uh, electrical producing plants, and at the same time require more and more companies produce more and more electric vehicles, more and more incentives to buy electrical vehicles, which is going to strain the grid. And all this is supposed to come, due by 2040. Will I be around in 2040? I don't know. Will any of you be around in 2040? I don't know. It depends on how old you are, how resilient you are, and what happens in the world in day to day. But it's just like a toolbox, and we've talked about this before. Your preps have to be ready for anything, from all the way from a snowstorm to maybe a loss of a job where you can't go out and buy food and you have food available for you and your family, all the way up to Armageddon. I mean, and everything in between. That's what we're preparing for. We're preparing for everything, anything that could happen. You know, that's why you have insurance. That's why you keep your car full of gas, and that's why you keep it, lubed and taken care of, because you don't want something breaking down on you. Our preps are that. We want to make sure that we are set. So this is just one of the tools in the toolbox to make sure that you have the right equipment or access to the right equipment for the truly unlikely event of nuclear war or an EMP, although balloons can carry EMPs. Um, Coronal mass ejection, which is probably solar storms and stuff like that, are probably more likely to happen. And the most likely to happen is just the failure of our electrical grid. Okay, some people say it's horrible, some people would say it's sufficient. Who knows? But this is just part of it. And what are we going to talk about in this video? We're going to talk about uh, if you're ready for an EMP or a solar storm. We're going to talk about things you need to consider that could happen to the electrical grid. We're going to talk about solar storms and nuclear EMPs and lightning. We're going to also talk about EMP misconceptions, stuff that we've been told our entire lives, which are not true because technology goes on. We're going to talk about after the strike, what happens. We're going to talk about Faraday cages. I'm going to show you my Faraday cage and what I built it on. We're going to talk about what goes into your, should go into your Faraday cage. And then I have this great article from Ask a Prepper, and it goes back a few years. It's called 11 Things You Believe About EMPs and Faraday Cages That Are Actually Not True. So we're going to touch on that twice because I think it's kind of important that you know the misconceptions about EMPs and solar storms and stuff like that and technology. We're going to discuss some books here, and we're also going to discuss a few things that you should have on hand. But one thing a lot of people don't realize, and it's human nature, when something happens, you look right at it. Okay? Go, wow, look at that. That's crazy. Not with a nuclear explosion. Okay? It's like looking at a solar eclipse. You don't look at a solar eclipse. You don't even look at the sun because you're going to burn I think it's a retina in your eyes. Yeah, you guys can comment and tell me if I'm wrong, and gals can tell me. But you never, ever, ever turn toward an explosion and look toward it for several reasons. Okay, one, the brightness of the blast is going to affect your eyes. Number two, and you can look up videos on YouTube about explosions, the Beirut explosion in their port. You can look at the explosions down in Texas and stuff like that. There is always, all right, a pressure wave. That pressure wave comes at you. It can break glass around you. It can pick up stuff and just push it into your eyes, your face, or whatever. If there's an explosion, yes, you're going to want to duck and cover. And if you're old enough, if you're old as I am, all right, I'm in my 60s, you remember being in school and the duck and cover drills, all right, back in the 60s for, nuclear war and stuff like that. But yeah, you're going to want to duck and cover. You don't want to like, whoa, look at that, and then get hit by that pressure wave or glass, or just look at at the brightness of the explosion. That's any explosion. That's just not just a nuclear explosion, but you could get hurt by that. But let's get into the point where are your preps ready for an EMP? Whether it's a nuclear bomb, geomagnetic storm, or coronal mass ejection, are you prepared to survive without electricity and the modern conveniences that electricity provides? As a prepper, you're probably ready for short term. Most people are, 30 days to a year. But what happens if it goes on further than that? What if it's a major attack on the electrical grid and we just don't have electricity? What about washing clothes? There are some great handheld washing machines out there that work really well. I'll give you the Boy Scout one. It is basically just some rubber tubs with a hole cut in the top with a plunger. You put your soap and stuff in there, and that plunger just goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and you wash your clothes. We did that at camp all the time. All right. And then you just take it to the next tub with another plunger with no soap. Plunge, 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 and it gets all that stuff out. And then you kind of wring it out, and hang it up to dry. You're not going to get the wrinkles out, but hey, what do you care about what you look like at that point? Filtering large quantities of water. It's very easy to use tablets, okay, in Nalgene bottles. You can use, Life Straw, but they're not going to last forever. You can use, hand pump filtration systems, but you need to think about large quantities. There are some great large water purifiers out there that they are expensive. I mean, you can get up into the hundreds or the thousands of dollars for some of this stuff. But when you figure that you need water, it's just something in the back of your mind. And if we go back to the video of the doomsday list, where if you know something is going to happen, you can go out and purchase these items. That is one of the things that should be on your doomsday list, is something to purify large quantities of water. So think about that with your doomsday list. If you didn't see the video, go back and see the doomsday list videos. Getting fuel. There's not going to be any electricity. And even if these places have generators, they're going to run out of fuel, or maybe natural gas can't be pumped to that location. So you should have some type of device, either siphoning devices out of other cars or other vehicles, or something with a longer hose that you can get down into these gas stations and pump the fuel out that you need. First aid and medication. How many days of medication do you have? 30, 60, 90 days? You might not, have enough. You might want to think about that. And cooking. You want to make sure that you have the fuel and the ability. If you're just going to use wood and stuff like that, you have a stove that you can just use for wood, makeshift stove. And sanitation. Sanitation is another thing. If there's no water, if they're not pumping water, if they're not going, how are you going to sanitize? There are some great toilets out there, and if you look at them, you that do RVing, there are some great toilets out there. Some toilets, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think actually even burn the waste. All right. My solution at this point, very simple, very easy. It's just a bucket with a soft liner around the top that you can go into, and then there'll be garbage bags that size. It's basically, a kitchen bag, and then you can just put some a deodorizer or whatever in there, because you're not going to go just once, and that's number two, by the way. Number one, you're just going to do the woods or whatever, unless you need to sit down for that too, and then you can always dump the bucket and clean the bucket out. So you'll need cleaning products to clean that bucket out, to keep it smelling good in case you need it. I know what you're saying. Oh, really? Look at it this way. We almost prepare for many different events. And we talked about that. You're going to prepare for anything from the 3-day ice storm to the apocalypse. You're just going to do that with your thing. So let's consider a few things. All right. When we talk about the chance of the grid going down. The sun is entering its solar maximum period. That's a time when solar flares and other emissions will rise. Okay, they aren't always directed at the Earth. Sometimes they skim off the Earth. You can look back on history and see when solar flares happened and what happened because of it. And other times they go off in other directions. You've got the war with Russia and Ukraine. You got what's going on with China and Taiwan. I mean, Putin's already declared he'll use nuclear weapons if other countries get involved. Hopefully that won't and isn't going to happen. Iran is getting closer to a nuclear weapon. There is decommissioned nuclear weapons in Russia, in some of their satellite countries that are now not their satellites anymore that are out there. There are nuclear bombs and nuclear torpedoes that have disappeared. There is a chance for a terrorist group to get hold of a dirty bomb or make a dirty bomb. China, like I said, is floating balloons over the U.S. and has stated they want to be the sole superpower. Well, how do you do that? You take out your rival. And extremists and terrorists could acquire, like I said, nuclear weapons or materials to set off a bomb. So a lot of people think an EMP is an EMP. It's just one thing, it's just, it is what it is, but it's not true. Not all EMPs are the same, and not all solar storms are the same. All right, first, solar storms. A direct hit from a solar mass ejection, and it's probably good night on Earth, basically. If we get hit hard with it, it's going to take out a lot of our protections. But just like spring thunderstorms, they vary in integrity from flickering lights to the grid coming down. And we know that. I can remember cell phone interruptions early on because the cell phones weren't protected that well. They're much more protected. The grid in certain areas are much more protected. The problem with the grid is if it gets hit hard, a lot of that equipment out there, they don't keep that stuff sitting around. It's very, very expensive. And to replace some of that very expensive equipment to produce the electricity and to transport the electricity or transmit the electricity through the wires, those certain substations, that equipment's very expensive. And it's kind of hard to, keep it on the shelf. A nuclear EMP, not all EMPs are the same. It depends on the elevation that they are detonated at, what they are designed to emit or disrupt, and their size. They can be site-specific or cover a broad area. So what I mean by that is site-specific. They may want to take out just one military installation, one city, okay? One major transmission area for electricity. You just might want to take that out, and that just takes that down. Or it can be widespread. The higher up it goes, the more widespread it is. The more specific it is for what they want to take out, the better chance of losing a specific ability. Lightning. It's just not a single strike will take out the grid, but as a fireman, I've seen areas with storms, lightning specifically, and then storms and stuff like that. We've had neighborhoods here in the suburbs of Chicago that were without power for 3 weeks. And why was it 3 weeks? Let's go back to what I said. Because some of the equipment they don't keep on hand, and they have to make it. All right? They have to get it. And not all places have it all the time. All right, let's look at some EMP misconceptions. All right. So if we talk about, let's see, these are misconceptions about what I'm going to talk about are about Faraday cages. All right. The cage does not block radio frequency waves. A lot of people put their cell phone in there or radio and turned it on and go, well, it still works. The phone still rings and stuff like that. Well, that's a totally different wave, energy wave, okay, than what EMPs and the solar flares will take out. So it's totally different. Your Faraday cage does not have to be grounded. Okay, a lot of people think that it has to be gridded. It doesn't. All right, the big thing with a Faraday cage is you have the field outside, electrical field outside the cage, and you have that field inside the cage, okay? That field inside the cage, okay, and this is just from what I've read. I'm not like the super brain or anything, believe me. I used to go into burning buildings when everybody else was getting out. But the field inside is, I'm told, cancels out the outside field. So the outside field can't get in, okay? And that cage just keeps that outside field away. CMEs, EMPs will cancel all electronic devices. Each blast weapon has a different frequency and affects electrical devices differently. There's high frequencies, which are phones, low frequencies, which are electrical grids. That's what I said. You know, um, it's going to be specific. Now, I'm sure they have nuclear weapons or EMPs that can do both high and low. I'm sure as technology goes along, we have the good and we have the bad with technologies. So the big one is everybody says you got to protect your car. They're going to be out of service. No, they're not. Most cars will not be out of service because most cars are hardened because of the electrical stuff in there and because of the heat that's generated inside the vehicle. So I'm told that they are shielded more than they used to be. And if you have a car that's really old, you don't have anything in there that's going to be affected by an EMP. You know, so it's a good thing to keep an old car around, I guess. You know, and plenty of fuel. And where did I get a lot of this information? Well, let's talk about a couple items that I have here. This is an absolute fantastic book. This is called Disaster Preparedness for EMP Attacks and Solar Storms. Arthur T. Bradley, PhD. If you don't have this book, get it. Okay, it's a really, 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 really good book. I got it on Amazon along with a couple other books down here that I'm going to show you. But this is really good. I mean, you can see I've got stuff tabbed here. It talks about, you know, how nuclear weapons work. It talks about tables comparing EMP weapons and what those specific EMP weapons do or don't do. It talks about a Faraday cage. There's that thing about electronic fields inside and outside the cage. What else is in this book? Shielding effectiveness, okay, of different items and how you can make your Faraday cage, which is pretty cool. Just a couple other things here. Solar radiation storm effects. It goes into each storm, their potency and things that can happen, and radio blackouts and stuff like that. So this is a must buy book. Okay, EMP attacks and solar storms. That's really a good book. Another one, and we had this at the fire department. It was one of our things that we used to read and stuff like this. This is the U.S. Armed Forces Nuclear, Biological, and Chemical Survival Magazine. A lot of great tips inside here. It's a tough read, okay, but it really is. It's really good. There's not much pictures, not many pictures, so it talks about all kinds of stuff. I was involved with chemical warfare when I was on the hazmat team, so that was very interesting to me. Here's another book, Nuclear War Survival Skills, and this is Nuclear Facts and Self-Help Instructions. This is another good book. These books came together, actually, because I didn't take the one from the fire department. It wouldn't have been fair. All right, so there's this book. This is really good. I've looked at, you know, different things about it, different things you can do, you know, how to make shelters, different things. Really good survival skill book. A couple little things that you could have with you. We talked about medication. This is totally up to you. These are not very expensive. Potassium iodide tablets. Okay. You know, if you believe in it, you know, if you think they're good, some people say they're garbage. You don't need those things, you know, but it's not going to hurt. They're, like I said, they're not very expensive. You get them in 2 packs and stuff like that. Something that you should have for in case something happens. You should have emergency dosimeter or maybe a regular dosimeter. Some people that work in different locations that use electricity, especially people that do take x-rays and stuff like that, you have your own dosimeters, and you probably know in case something happens where to get them at the hospital. They probably have a stockpile of them. But this, again, just got it on Amazon. So a couple things, you know, to have on hand. It's totally up to you whether you know how far you want to go with your stuff. All right, after the strike, find your family and get them home. Use your cash first, because if this is a long duration, they say the value will decrease over time. You should also have a stockpile of silver and fractional gold. I don't like full ounce gold. If you have to use it sometime, again, all right, the 3-day ice storm to Armageddon toolbox here. Um, you want fractional gold to be able to, barter and trade and stuff like that, back and forth. Um, Fill up everything that holds water. That's tubs, jugs, pots. Um, and all you need is 8 drops of bleach per gallon, and that will take care of the water, keep it nice and clean. And remember, when you have water jugs and you keep refilling them like I do, you've seen it in my water videos where I just rotate the water. They're good for 6 months inside there. Then you should really replace it, okay, if you have access. But you want to fill up everything with water. Get as much water as you can. Um, you can talk with your neighbors about what's going on. Discuss the event. Tell them to buy more necessities. Discuss neighborhood watch. Start holding block meetings and identify the skills amongst yourself, because people are going to run out of stuff and they're going to find people that have. Okay. And they're going to get it. Start rationing food right off the bat. Get down to 2,000 calories and everything, and be set. Set up what you're going to do with human waste and trash, how you're going to get rid of it. You don't want that laying around. It's just going to produce rodents and other nasty creatures. Listen to the radio that you put in the Faraday cage. If there is any broadcast, you should be able to get it across emergency radio. If you're a ham radio operator, hopefully your equipment is protected and other parts of the world didn't have an issue, and you can get some information from them and enact your security plan. Don't trust anybody, okay, at all. Just be prepared. All right. Let's talk about the 11 things that EMPs and Faraday cages that are actually wrong. We talked about a bunch of them already, but EMPs will not stop all cars with computers in them. We know that. EMPs will not fry out all computers. They just won't. But why take the chance? EMPs will not stop your cell phones from working, but the cell towers may go down. You may not have any connection. But even with generators that are running the backup fuel for switchboards and stuff like that, their fuel will eventually run out. Pretty much anything electronic which was built before the 70s will still work, especially appliances and tube type radios. Who's got a tube top radio? It's the newer stuff that's going to have problems. Electronics which are not connected to anything else, especially small electronics, will survive. All right. Another thing to remember is that there are warehouses scattered across this country which contain electronic devices boxed up and waiting for delivery to retailers and customers. So most of those warehouses are metal buildings, making them near perfect Faraday cages. Interesting. Did you think about that? Yeah, there you go. Airplanes are one of the few things manufactured today which are tested for EMP resilience as part of their design. Lightning strikes on airplanes actually much more than people realize. And we see pictures about that all the time. I was never in a plane that got struck by lightning, but I know people that have, and they just said it was really weird, but kind of pretty. But like an EMP, the electricity from the lightning just works its way around the surface of the airplane and then continues toward the ground. So there you go. Airplanes are not going to fall out of the sky. It's not to say here, they say that not to say commercial airlines won't have some serious problems to deal with. The air traffic control systems may be down. So hopefully you have a really good pilot that knows where he's going. Another area that is required by regulation to have generator backup is water treatment plants. So while the electrical grid is one thing most likely to be destroyed by an EMP, water and sewer will be on for a few days until they run out of power. All right. Natural gas producers produce their own electrical power for massive generators run by engines that burn natural gas. Questionable whether they will be operational, though. It will depend on whether the generators and controls are inside metal buildings or not. Again, giant metal buildings, a Faraday cage. Petroleum companies would prioritize getting whatever fuel they have to critical users. But this the writer of this article said, I haven't found any information stating that such plans are in place or how they would implement for long-term electrical loss. EMPs will destroy solar panels. Well, solar panels will receive some damage. They'll still retain about 80 to 90% of their power. Considering that solar panels are built with the assumption that they will never be operating at 100% efficiency. Did you know that? I didn't know that. You know? They should still produce enough power to be useful. So then a Faraday cage must be solid and uninterrupted metal. Well, yes and no. I know some people have talked about that they can use fine like chicken wire. In this book, you get this book, it talks all about, how to build the Faraday cage and what works the best. And then an EMP will render military ineffective. Just what effect an EMP will have on the military and just how effective the military will be after the strike, there's a lot of speculation. If there's any part of the government which takes EMPs seriously, it's the military. Military aircraft design are all tested for EMP resilience, and the same for military vehicles and weapon systems. The Air Force has reopened Cheyenne Mountain, we know, and they bringing the systems installed up there up to date because the facility is EMP proof. And our military force is around the world. So if one area is affected, another whole bunch of other guys and gals are not. A nuclear explosion caused by an EMP will be invisible. Well, maybe. It depends on if the attack is during the day or at night when you can see it or not see it. So let's talk about Faraday cages real quick. All right, Faraday cages. You can use ammo boxes, which are metal. Then you can use a metal garbage can, which I use, which I'm going to show you. And cardboard boxes, sheets and boxes to put inside these vehicles, and then aluminum foil, heavy duty aluminum foil to complete the cage depending on how you build it. Something else just real quick, going back as far as if your vehicle gets affected or not, think about alternative transportation, and that would be like a bike. Just have a bike. Okay, some of the things that should go inside your Faraday cage. All right. Flashlights, maybe a portable TV, AM/FM radio, batteries, small generator, external hard drives, cell phones, chargers, two-way radios, laptops and iPads, solar panel charging stations, battery-powered hand tools, night vision optics, game cameras, anything rechargeable, digital cameras, DVD players, USB drives, medical devices, plugged-in headphones, and small ham radios. This is what I got from going to different sites and talking to different people, reading different books, and stuff like that. You're asking me, well, Rich, batteries? Why would you put batteries in there? The reason I put batteries in there is for my devices that are in there that take batteries, that I have batteries. Okay, that's the only reason that I put batteries in there, because they're together. This is what I like most about my Faraday cage. Is it ever going to be put to use? From a CME or an EMP or anything like that, or nuclear explosion? I don't know. I hope not. But you know what I like it for? It puts all my electronic stuff in one place. So let me just show you mine and how I did it. So I am going to move this. It might get a little, no, it did. Got a lot jumpy, didn't it? So there is my Faraday cage. Okay, I have chosen to go with this, not to go with the ammo can. I have decided to go with this. It's a lot larger and it holds a lot more stuff. So let me show you what I put inside here. So you got the metal can, and which the key here is it's solid metal all the way around, okay, protecting from any type of effect from an EMP or a CME. So then what you want to do, and they talk about this, is you want to have a top plate that's cardboard, and then you want the interior to have, sorry about that, so you want cardboard all the way around to keep your devices from touching this. There's also a double cardboard all the way at the bottom. Okay, we probably aren't going to get to that, but I'll just show you some of the stuff. I mean, I have my own laptop. I have my work laptop, and yes, they're always in here. Well, not always. If I'm using them or I'm taking them to school or I'm doing whatever, they're not in there. But they always go in there at night. They're charged and then they're put in there when they need to. And speaking of charging, your charging devices. I don't know if this could be affected, but if I have this and I leave this out and it's affected, well, what good is it? Flashlights. I keep extra flashlights in there only because I know where they're at. Other lights, small little lights that have batteries in them. What else do I have in here? I have, the other charging cable, my mouse. These are more flashlights. I have several sync drives that I got from T-Mobile for buying another phone. And then what I do is I layer everything. It just makes it easier, and you don't really need all that. This is my charger, my external charger that's always charged. This thing is great. I've been dumb enough to turn my car off and leave my lights on, and I was able to start my car to this. Thank you, Emily, for bringing it to me because I didn't have it in my car. A couple other things that are in here. This is a air pump. I don't know, will be affected. I don't know, but it's in here, and if it's in here, it's not going to be affected. I've got a digital camera. I have my Kindle. I have a DVD player in here. Keep it charged. Everything's in here. Why? Entertainment purposes. Okay. If things really go south, I can at least watch DVDs and be entertained. But it's electronic, so I put it in here also. And there's a whole bunch of other things. Here is my Eco Gear. Not MP3, you know what I mean. But then I've got all kinds of small things in here. I keep there's my Ratty RFL3 emergency radio is inside here, fully charged and set down at the bottom there. I have miscellaneous stuff like this is voltmeters, phone cables. In here is another one. I've got radios, external hard drives, batteries, two-way radios are all inside this, but they're all, and you've noticed, these are also, again, inside cardboard. Hey, right now that I have all this stuff out, I hope we don't get hit by anything. But everything's in here, nice and neat, very secure. I know where everything is. I don't have to run around my house and look for stuff anymore. Sorry about my head. So that's, basically my Faraday cage, just for my purposes. I keep it all in there. Some of my family think I'm nuts, but I am. But I'm prepared. So that's it. That is, are you prepared for an EMP, CME, nuclear attack, and some of the things that you might need beyond what you already have, or things that if you don't want to purchase, you want to put on your doomsday list. Okay, again, that's a great video to take a look at. I have a video on that Ratty radio. Thank you, Ban Everything, for that information. I really appreciate that. Again, go to Ban. I want you to go to Ban Everything's channel also and check some of his stuff out, and check other people's information out too. We are all in this together. We all want to make sure that we survive whatever it is, and we are prepared. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some great ideas out of it. And like we always say, always be aware of your surroundings no matter where you're at. Always have food, water, medicine, ammunition to bug out, which should be packaged separately so you don't have to repackage it from your shelter in place food, water, medicine, and ammunition. Um, and then please prep like your life depends on it. It really, really does. And don't forget your pets, and don't forget family members that have to come to your house should they have to shelter in place at your house. And we have videos on that too. So thank you very much. Appreciate you watching. Please comment. Please like. I guess that's it. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.